Welcome to Weeping Willow Homestead. Today I have September's garden tour for you, and this will be the last garden tour of the year because this time next month the garden will be done for. At best I will have some lettuce and radishes, but usually by this time in October, the end of October, we'll have gotten frosts and everything will be on its way out, unfortunately. So this is our kitchen garden. If you have not watched my other garden tours, I would encourage you to do that because I'll go over a little bit more detail on the garden setup, but today I'm just going to kind of give a rundown of what's left. So yeah, this is the kitchen garden. It's our smaller of our two gardens, and it is definitely on its way out, but there's still some things growing. So I have patch of lettuce growing. Sorry about the plastic, it blew in. I have this patch of lettuce growing, and then over here are some radishes. I need to come out and seed radishes again because they didn't do great. The first seeding, I was trying something different and it didn't work, so lesson learned. The jalapenos are still going. Oh, there's the penitentiary. They just get moved at least once a day, every day, to fresh grass. Anyway, the jalapenos are still going, and I'm getting off of those. As I get them, I have been setting them in a bin, and then I will do up a batch of them and make them into jalapeno poppers and put them in the freezer. The brassicas, I don't know. I got one cabbage out of that, like a small one. The bugs did get to them. I really need to get on next year trying fall planting of brassicas. Yeah. So the broccoli has bolted. I might get Brussels sprouts. There's some small ones forming. We'll see. Kind of fingers crossed on that one because I love Brussels sprouts. There is a tomato plant back there that's still producing. And then the two cherry tomato plants are here and they're still doing great. Still producing some. I'm still seeing flowers. So we'll still be getting more off of those. And then the peppers are doing great. I am finally getting some of the big peppers turning color. We are not a big fan of green peppers in our house. But the colored peppers, once you let them go ahead and change, are better. I've been getting lots of the little snacking peppers, enough that I've been able to donate. Oh, back here, this big empty patch was where the cosmos was, and it was starting to seed. So I pulled seed off, but then I did not want it to seed like it did last year, because last year the whole kitchen garden was covered in cosmos this spring, sorry. So I did not want it to do that. So I went ahead and pulled all of those out and threw them in the compost. The zinnias are still looking beautiful though, and I have come out and saved seed off of them. Saving seed off of zinnias is really easy because it's just the flower head. Let me see, like that. See how it falls apart? And the little black thingies are the seeds. So if you want to save zinnia seeds, they are super easy to save. I have like a big bowl of them because I really like to plant a bunch next year. And then one little trick that I do is that if there's a specific one that I want to save seed from, I will come out with a piece of yarn and tie a string just under the base of the flower. And then I know, hey, when that one dies off, that's one that I want to save seed from, because I like to save the ones that I like the best. I have some in here that are called candy stripe that are really cool looking, and so I would like to save seed, wanted to save seed specifically from those. The zucchini are done. They are done. The squash beetles finally found this garden and tore into it. So yeah, there is nothing left on those. That's okay. The penitentiary garden beds are looking great. I did come out and put on a very thick layer of grass clippings on all of them. The only one that hasn't gotten done is that one yet, but my husband's chainsaw is still on the fritz. So I may end up coming out with a hacksaw at some point, because I kind of would like to get that one done and have it be ready by next spring. If it's not the end of the world if I have one less bed. But my intention is to turn these all into things like carrots, radishes, flowers, green onions, the things that I just need a small bed of. So hopefully that wind isn't too loud in y'all's ears. All right, let me pause this and I'll walk over to the big garden. Okay, quick overview of the big garden. It is dying off as well. Here, let me show you one thing that I hadn't showed you before. I had some sweet potatoes that started to vine in the house, and so I just brought them out here and literally buried the entire potato. And so I have some sweet potato vines. You can, from my understanding, eat the greens, like you can eat the leaves of sweet potatoes. I don't know that these will produce potatoes soon enough before we get a frost. But it was just kind of one of those where I was like, hey, let's give it a try. And then on the other side, this is our compost bins. On the other side of the compost bins, I also planted a few potatoes that had gone to seed that were sprouting eyes. And so I went ahead and planted those too, and there's plants. So we'll see what there is this later on this fall to dig up. The tomatoes are still producing pretty well. I'm not having any major issues with them, but they are still starting to die back, and I am seeing some white flies, which is something that we get pretty much every fall. They go ahead and attack them. I have stopped weeding in this area for the most part, so that's okay. I just work around it. They have definitely slowed down now that the temperatures have dropped off. The apple trees are also done dropping anything useful, which they're not great apples anyway. They're very, very tart apples. I made some applesauce with it, and the kids were like, woo, this is tart. So the cucumbers are done. I did pull off a couple of them. Let them get to that ugly yellow stage, like that, maybe even less ripe than that. And you can save seed from them. The seeds are big enough then. So I did pull seed from those, and then I've just kind of been randomly coming out and picking any leftover cucumbers and throwing them to the chickens. Because of the heat there at the end of the summer, they got bitter, so nobody wanted to eat them, like humans wise. Okay, so I talked in a previous video about we had a tree fall on our garden shed and our deck. The garden shed is probably done for. The deck, just the railings. Luckily it missed the house. So insurance paid to have tree trimmers come out, and they cut down the tree. And they left all of the wood for us, yay, backyard fires. And then they also dropped off giant wood mulch pile. And I have been working on putting that in the garden. So the left side of the garden over here is super nice, lush ground, because there used to be a barn that sat here and they had animals in it, and so the ground is great. That end of the garden, a couple of years ago, we had a tree cut down by the electric company, and they gave us the mulch. And then electric company also brought like 2 dump truck loads of mulch for us and left. And so we put it on that end of the garden. So that end of the garden ground-wise is great. This middle ground, however, is not great. It's super rocky, it's dense, there's a little bit of clay there. So I decided I was gonna put the mulch there. So this is where the corn was, and we cut it all off and made it into corn shocks, and then the green beans were in this area. So I actually went ahead and pulled up all of the old green bean plants, and they are under that pile of mulch. And then I'm gonna wheelbarrow load after load after load after load. I'm going to build up the mulch pile here. Then about midway through next month, we will move the chickens onto this garden. We will just put up their portable electric fence around this and leave them on there all winter long. And I am going to mound that pile up, and then they will knock it down. And until it freezes, I will come back out, and like once they've got it pretty well flat, I'll mound it back up again with a pitchfork, shovels, whatever, pile it back up again, and then they'll spread it out again. And that makes it break down really, really fast. It essentially is composting it in place. So then that will cover this whole area with new mulch, and over the next 2 years that will break down and turn into beautiful, lovely dirt. So, you know, kind of a blessing in disguise on having that tree fall. One, it fell on a shed that we were already knowing needed replaced in the somewhat near future, and probably weren't going to be able to do that. So now insurance will pay to either fix it or replace it. And then we ended up with firewood for the backyard fires, and mulch for the garden. So, you know, I mean, it was no fun having a tree fall, but we're reaping the benefits from it. So, yeah, the corn is done. Those green beans are done. My second planting of fall plant of green beans, these are jade and they are jamming. I am so pleased with, I'm definitely doing a fall planting again next year. We are getting, one day I picked a 5-gallon bucket off of just these 2 rows. The last time I picked was yesterday morning or the evening before. I guess it was Tuesday evening. And I got just like a quarter of a bucket full, like not even that. Enough for a little bit for dinner, and then 1 meal's worth frozen in a quart baggie. So not a whole lot, but that was my intention with these, was just to have enough to eat on, not to have enough to put up or can or anything like that. So that was fine with me. So they're actually even still flowering. But yeah, I will leave those when we're done with those and we release the chickens on the garden. I leave everything. I don't pull any of the plants up. The tomatoes I will leave, and I'll actually leave the tomato plants in the cages and let the chickens eat them down so far, and then I will come out and pull the cages off and let them eat them down the rest of the way. And we even like sprinkle their food on things that we want them to really work up. So, upset chicken. So yeah, the green beans are still going. All of the vining plants have been pulled up. We've pulled, or not the plants, but all of the produce. So we got several butternut squash, several spaghetti squash. We got a few of the delicata. I think I only have 1 left. Yeah, all of that is weeds now. And like I said, I'm just going to leave that. The nice thing about leaving that is because the chickens are going to be on here, it gives them something to work down, somewhere to hide from predators. We actually just saw a hawk this morning. Luckily, it left them alone. The only thing that's still out here is these, let me get out of the sun there. These are the loofah gourds, which I was super ecstatic about the fact that I'm going to get some. They're actually looking good. So loofah gourds is what you get loofah from, like the thing you wash your body with, or you can wash your dishes with, that kind of thing. Not many people realize that that's a plant. I honestly thought it was a sea plant, like a sea sponge instead. I don't know why my brain went there, but they are not. They are in these. And what you do is you let this completely dry out, and then you rip it open and it rips like the skin off, and then the loofah is inside of there, and then you can cut it like in sections to use. So I have always wanted to try growing them. I tried last year and did not get anything usable, so I still have those going. So those are those 3. There are still some flowers and some baby ones, but I don't know whether they will make before, at least the ones, the baby ones, I don't think they'll probably make before frost sets in. It is cool out. We have been way low temperatures, like down into the 40s at night, which is kind of unseasonably cool for this time of year for us. So we'll see how that goes. We did have major issue with the squash beetles down on this end. To the point where me and my oldest son came out with our flame weeder and we're burning them. I'm hoping to maybe put a dent in their population next year by doing that, because there were thousands of them. Any of the butternut squash that we left because they weren't any good, had bad spots or whatever, you'd see them like covering the surface of the squash. So we came out and burned as many as we could, and then I'm actually tempted to, in the spring, burn this end of the garden once the chickens are done with it, if there's anything left, just to maybe see if that helps. I don't know at this point, because yeah, I'm at the point of potentially not even growing vining plants for a few years to try to get them out of the ground. The only other option is heavy pesticides, which we really try to avoid. So yeah, so that's the garden. It's just about done. Like I said, by this time next month it will be done and we will have chickens on it. We have that big family thing at the end of October that we go to every year, and we're gone for several days. Well, not several days, but a few days, usually 3-4 days. So we usually put the chickens on this for that time period. We feed them heavily. and then leave them be. Essentially, we have neighbors that will come down and put them up at night, but they just hang out on this because they have plenty of food for those few days to scrounge up themselves. So yeah, I am both sad to see the garden go, just because I'm gonna miss the fresh produce. I'm gonna miss the cucumbers and the tomatoes and all of that. Oh man, I'm still not over green beans. My kids are so burnt out on green beans. I fixed some last night with that sausage sheet pan dinner, which you guys will see in the meals of the week thing. And like nobody picked green beans for theirs. So yeah, my kids are burnt out. Usually what I end up doing is I've got all those canned green beans and I will give it a break for about a month of not eating green beans, and we eat other things, and then we come back to it, because by the end of summer my kids are like, nope. They usually feel that way about cherry tomatoes by the end of the year. That it's like zucchini. They're all like, nope, we don't want any more zucchini. So we kind of switch over to those fall and winter vegetables for a little while. But yeah. I'm sad to see the garden go for that, but I'm also ready to take the winter off. We have a new nephew coming partway through the winter, and so I am looking forward to getting out my knitting needles and making him some things. I have lots of little sewing projects and those kind of things planned for this winter. My daughter has been working on knitting like washcloths, dishcloths, and we've been talking about possibly going and setting up at the farmers market next year with things that we make this winter. I have a really cute pattern for a really simple little girl's dress, and I've actually been using old t-shirts to make my 2-year-old some dresses for next summer, and I thought, oh, I bet I could make some of those to do for like Operation Christmas Child for this winter. So I was thinking, as everything winds down, maybe getting to pick up a little bit more sewing. So it's one of those where generally my sewing table, aside from some mending jobs, gets completely shut down for the winter or for the summer until I'm done, and now I get to get it back out again. So yeah, I feel like overall this growing season has been great. The tomatoes did great. Pretty much everything did stellar. The brassicas, once again, are my meh on. I did okay on cabbage, but I really need to get on starting seeds midway through the summer and trying to grow brassicas in the fall and see if that helps. So can't win them all, but so yeah, I thank you so much for following along this year on our garden, and I look forward to next spring setting up new garden and having you guys follow along. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Goodbye and God bless.